and welcome for a special edition, solo this one, of Foundation 101 webcast. This time, what we want to do 4 months into 2025 is to take stocks of what has happened and where we think the world of fiduciary and the UA in particular is heading. And we thought we'd do that in three themes. The first would be macro, the second would be what is really happening in the UAE and what family are doing. So if we look into the macro theme, there is a tectonic shift over the past 20 years across financial centers, and global one for that matter. And what is interesting is to look at where the UAE fits in that model. Is it really rising? Is it stable? Is it going down? If it is rising, who is going down? And what we see, if we look at the data given to us generously, but the GFCI tracking every 6 months, is that you see at the top New York and London. For how long? We will see. But what is more interesting is to see that centers traditionally deemed global leaders are now slowly decreasing. It is the case of Geneva, now an international center. It is still powerful, it is still meaningful, it's still very much compatible with UAE structures custodizing in Switzerland. But what we see is a slow erosion of our good friends in Switzerland towards a more international level and no longer the juggernaut global leaders that they used to be 25 years ago. So where actually are these juggernauts? Well, as it turned out, 9 of the global leaders today are between Asia and the Middle East. And that is a substantial shift from west to east, with Hong Kong being at the top of the food chain, but interestingly starting to be stable and now only relatively deep, and Singapore still a global leader, but now relatively broad. And that brings me neatly to what the Dubai International Financial Center and the Abu Dhabi Global Market have managed to achieve over the past 20 years. Because if we see at their evolution from international to then global, but slightly less broad, to now global leader as far as Dubai is concerned, this is simply phenomenal. And it also explains the attraction it has had on both regulated financial institution and single family office. We'll come to that in a moment. And if you look at what Abu Dhabi Global Market is doing, it's equally remarkable, starting very local and emerging, pretty much where Riyadh is today, but it has jumped up substantially since then and now position itself equally as a global leader. And if you look at these usual suspects now on your right hand side, this is really where the world is. These are the top dogs in terms of financial centers. More relevantly is this: the only 8 global leader broad and deep are these in front of us, and surprisingly Dubai is there, and we think at MHU that it is there to stay. And if we zoom a little bit out and we look at these 14, 15 top global leaders, Abu Dhabi is there as well. And that leads me to one of our team, is that families today and the smart money wants to operate out of highly regulated, reputable jurisdiction. And if one is, like the UAE, Dubai and Abu Dhabi are, on this global leader list, the top credible financial center, clearly there is more appeal for that. But critically, the smart money wants not only that, it also wants to be able to operate proprietary investment structure that are not supervised. For those of you scoring at home, you may have seen a backlash in Singapore, for example, on single family office, which now needs to provide much more data to the government. That's not the case in the UAE, where actually the opposite has happened. Single family office regime in ADGM and the AFC used to be tied to the regulator. They are now completely disembedded and as a standalone, non-supervised. And that's what appeals to families. High reputation, yet a tool that is non-supervised. And within that come 2 features that families are increasingly seeking, and that has been a relevant theme for the past 3 years. One is privacy. Data in the public domain. In the UAE, single family office can pretty much carve out the data they have in the public domain. The same happens in a few other centers, but not everywhere. And that is something that is appealing to family. And third is the ability to control one's single family office, control one's fiduciary structure arrangement at the top without negative tax impact. In fact, with potentially substantial tax saving. In the UAE, a foundation is deemed transparent for tax purpose, so is a regulated financial institution which is not taxed for corporate tax. And that has explained to a large extent why the UAE has been able to not only attract, but also retain the smart money. The 10-year golden visa is now become very mainstream and very appealing to people, particularly the by exemption route, which doesn't force people to tie up capital to come. In many other jurisdictions, you need to pay first, consume later. In the UAE, if you are the proper target market, it's the opposite. And that is very appealing. And this is why we believe out of 100 to 150,000 ultra high net worth that will change jurisdiction this year, about 10 to 15% will come to the UAE. That totals to anywhere between 12 and 20,000 ultra high net worth. You're welcome, people. And what we see increasingly is that these people are not only coming here for the sandy beaches and just to substantiate the residence, they are looking at the rest of the ecosystem. They are looking at what other benefits the UAE can provide, including in terms of structure. That doesn't necessarily mean shifting full structures, but what we see is a hedge. A lot of families, particularly from high tax countries, including US, including China, coming to the UAE and creating a mirror structure, often complementary to the vertical that would maintain in another region. And families are also coming for deal flow, which, as it appears, and at least our clients tell us at MHQ, has now shifted substantially to the Gulf region and Abu Dhabi in particular. Now, I talked about the single family office regime. We have in the UAE a very versatile single and multi-family office regime. And one of the themes is the difference between regulated for RFI, for category 3 CCAT for the IFC and ADGM license, and the completely exempt regime for single family offices. And the big difference is no prudential capital, no regulatory oversight. So a lot of families love that, full privacy, and that is a big draw for many. And a lot of clients ask us, okay, but what if I want to service my friends, my families, etc.? And one of the themes that we see going forward is a lot of families going multi. Do they have to become regulated? Well, it depends. It depends on the activities they will undertake and who is their eventual client. If one is providing a gamut of services, think investment management, investment monitoring, credit liquidity management, custody, all the lifestyle services, tax, legal, succession, for one family, you are in the UAE completely exempt from regulatory supervision. You remain critically exempt if you provide the bottom services to third parties, provided they are not financially regulated services. If they are, then that is big boys territory, and that's where people actually need to seek regulatory approval before launching. And we see increasingly families going from one as a stepping stone to the other. This is a trend. We expect it to continue in 2025. The number of applications by families to become regulated has vastly increased early this year compared to last year. And the other trend that we see is to continue is the use of foundation. Foundations have been introduced in 17, 18 in the UAE, have become completely mainstream around 2022, 2023. We expect around 600 foundation registered this year in the UAE. And good news is that a lot more people are now offering them and providing them. Bear in mind, 5,000 CSPs in the UAE, only 87 can actually offer them directly outside of from Abu Dhabi and ADGM, only 17 from both jurisdictions as a whole. MHQ controls about 30% of that market. So when we talk about this theme, the macro where the UAE is, the ability of the UAE to attract both people and regulated businesses or single family offices and retain and grow this, let us look at a couple of examples. And this is typically what is happening. Asian money previously structured through Hong Kong or Singapore and is now shifting to the UAE, creating a separate vertical. This vertical ensures business continuity, asset protection, and tax efficiency. And in this case, is composed of a foundation here in the DIFC, a single family office, which then manages two verticals, one that is real estate focused, one that is financially as investment focused. This is something that we see a lot. People, when they come here, not relying on institutional trustees, but effectively being their own trustees in this dual layer vertical. This is the new mainstream. Second, a lot of people come from higher tax jurisdiction, typically like the UK. We would see them doing roughly the same thing, combining golden visa as a first port of call and then upgrading in terms of setup. So it's not only one region that will use this sort of structure, it is more a type of quality of clients that will be attracted by this solution and arrangement. But it's not only the foreign people that are attracted, and what we see and that we think will continue is the local and regional families, educating them and becoming increasingly more sophisticated. This is a typical local families, circa 2025, where you have a foundation, in this case in the Abu Dhabi global market, that owns a single family office, which previously was embedded in an LLC in mainland, disembedded, organized and structured in the financial center, and then administrates all these other structures around. Critically, this model was actually set up several years ago. What did the family do in early 2025? It started to service friends and families. You see this foundation at the bottom. This is the extended family. Some of them still considered family by the principal, but not naturally part of the family. Because the structure has morphed from SFO to MFO, it can now service them, generate a revenue out of it, maximize the infrastructure, and this in a tax-free environment. And another example is this one, which we think is very topical and will become a trend to follow in 2025. Similarly, a local family that first reorganized its affair, set up a single family office under a foundation, the same foundation holding both real estate portfolios and some other assets in private equity. The family has demonstrated that it has a track record of successfully investing in these two asset classes. So to accelerate this process and de-risk a little bit, what it has done is setting up a fund of which it is the general partner. It can monetize that fund as a fund manager because it has morphed the single family office into an MFO. And this is a model that we anticipate will continue to flourish in 2025 amongst sophisticated families. So where is the UAE today? It is in a very positive spot. It has managed to establish itself among global leaders worldwide in terms of financial center. And this is not by chance. It is by having policies aligned with an objective, which is to attract and retain people of a certain caliber, certain quality. The good news is that the local and regional money continues to choose, in fact, increasingly chooses to use domestic structure for wealth management, wealth growth, asset protection. And these are, we believe, trends that will continue. Use of domestic structure, both non-regulated, but also regulated one. Watch this space, and hopefully we'll talk about this in a few months to see if this trend, Nostradamus style, were accurate. Thank you and goodbye.